Hi folks, who I've got sitting next to me is Jack.
Hello.
I have just been on, a couple of weeks ago, on a 1916 Uprising pilgrimage in Dublin, and Jack took an interest in this.
Yes, yeah, because I'm from Ireland myself, and Ray, I don't have a clue where you're from. Jeez, somewhere not here. But it's amazing to hear the perspective from someone who went on a tour as special as this, and and I just wanted to find out what you did.
Oh, right, okay, so I'll give you my best shot, Jack. So I didn't know much about the 1916 Uprising. I've been in Ireland for a year, just over a year, and I didn't know much about it, but my partner, Claire here, is related to it in a strange way, because, come on, open up. Claire here is related to it in a strange way, because her grandfather's cousin was Sean Houston. Now, there's a Houston station, and that's named after Sean Houston.
Oh, I didn't know
Yeah,
that.
yeah. And he was the commander of 26 men who were sent out on that morning of the uprising to hold a building. They didn't know that, but he was the one that was holding it together. These young men, they were about 20 or so.
Oh, so they were young.
Oh yeah, and he was 25.
Yeah.
But he was a good man. Anyway, so how it worked is that all of those young men had someone represented in this pilgrimage of us as we were going to walk through the streets from 6 o'clock in the morning. They would have been raised up out of their beds to get their guns and all their ammunition together to walk to this building that they had to hold. Now, they didn't know they had to hold it, but Sean had his orders, and he got them in some way or other, and they got there.
And these men were all just hopefuls, you know.
No, they were trained soldiers. They'd all been trained up. There were actually 13 to start off with, and as they took the building over, 13 more arrived through the back door because there was hundreds of English out the front.
And this was during the uprising.
Yeah, the start of the uprising.
This was
the start of the uprising.
Wow.
Yeah. So I'll take you for a quick tour through the streets. This is the guy here, John. John was the one that gave us a lot of history and told us all about it. He was very good. He was a bit of a comedian, actually. He was an actor, a bit of an artist.
He's been waiting 100 years.
He's been waiting 100 years for it. So he had a relation in it too, of course. Now here we stopped at he stopped us at certain places, and you can see he's holding this lily here. That was his flag to take us through the streets. This was, in the time, they were tenement buildings, and so there was a lot of poverty and trouble here.
Not a nice place.
Not a nice place. On each corner, there was a pub. There were 4 pubs here, so that's what a lot of stuff happened. A lot of drunkenness, a lot of fighting went on there. So as we were walking through the streets, we went through various places, and he stopped and he told us about them. This one here was the... what was it? It was something like the trade centre or a ministry of something, where the men gathered. And so you'll see this is their cry here. It reads here, "We serve neither king nor Kaiser," because the Germans had something to do with this too. They were actually supplied arms to the rebellion. "We serve neither king nor Kaiser, but Ireland." So that's what the Irish believed then.
They're really sticking it to the British.
Yeah, sticking it to the British, all right. So as we were walking through the streets, we came across various places. Here's John at the front again, holding his lily. You see his lily here. So we all knew where he was.
So an umbrella. There was too many umbrellas.
Yeah, too many umbrellas. This was a small umbrella, an Irish umbrella. And here we've got a piper piping us through as well.
The entire time, a piper?
No, he just played certain parts. And so we finally, so we stopped at various places on the way. One place we stopped at a church. A brother opened the door of the church and greeted us, and then someone was telling us about that this was the Franciscan brothers who belonged to this church. There were 4 of those Franciscan brothers who went out and actually helped in the uprising. They weren't fighting, but they helped people who were actually hurt.
Be it British,
on both sides.
Wow.
Be it British or be it Irish, they helped both sides. One of them got shot, so we heard.
And
not sure
and the rest of the churches and all these just did not.
No, they didn't have anything to do with
it.
No, they didn't help at all. So we finally made it to this building here, which is called the Mendacity Institution. Now, what that was a sort of a workhouse in a way, where people went to work, and if they worked there, they got 3 meals, and they also got a place to sleep if they needed it.
And what kind of work was it?
Well, the men smashed rocks, and the women were inside doing spinning and weaving. And you'll see this.
Did you do any spinning and weaving?
No, I didn't do any spinning and weaving. I was a bit too young at the time. So this is a big tarpaulin which is put over the front of the building, and it's a print of what the building actually looked like. Now you look, see the gates here. You can't see them very well, but the gates are right there. So the building would have been really about there, close here, because the gates are back here. And there's a reason for that. I'm telling you that because later on, when the British were trying to take the place over. So you asked about strategies before. This was This was a strategic place because the British were further back down here, way down here, and they had to walk up this street here to get to the post office, and they knew something was happening at the post office, which is about 4 miles away, 3 or 4 miles away. They knew that had been taken over because it was being bombed by the British from the boat, which was sitting just in the harbour of the Liffey River.
Yeah. So there was these different specific military places that they knew that the British were either going to be walking by or
they needed those places. So there was lots of these places all over Dublin, and this is just one place where Sean and his, in the end, 26 men managed to get here, took the place over. And so they were shooting out of these windows here, and they were good soldiers too. And the British were really annoyed at having these men just popping them off, as you would be.
As if you get shot at, you quite get annoyed. Yeah,
you get shot at. We had the celebration back there where we were, and it was all quite interesting. They talked about the history and all the people who were involved, and Shay read something about the Irish history, and Quiving read the names of the soldiers that were there. Now have a look at this one here. All of these guys here are related to Sean Houston. Which ones look similar to Sean here?
And it's absolutely, it's just weird actually, because it looks like an old photo of Kai there.
Especially Kai there.
And Shay as well.
Shay to a large extent, but definitely Kai. Yeah, there's definitely.
I think Queeving's a bit too hefty.
Yeah. There's definitely a gene recognition there. So here we have after this we were taken to a place, and we were taken to a place where we had some sandwiches and cups of coffee and tea, and they looked after us really well.
This was all free for the relations?
Yeah, that was all free for the relations, and anyone else who went along, actually. They said, come along, join in. So after that, we got quite interested in it, and Claire said to her children, let's go to the post office and have a look and see what's on at the post office. So we went to the post office. On the way past the post office, which is down O'Connelly Street.
Now this post office is not any ordinary post office. This is the post office in Ireland, isn't it? Like it's
the main one in Dublin.
Yeah.
That's what that's one of the first things that they took over, the post office.
And it was the most important as well. It was
real strategic.
Yeah.
So that's a statue at the start of the O'Connelly Street, and the post office is down near about 400 metres or so. So why I'm showing you the statue is because on the side there's one of the angels, a beautiful looking angel. See that there? That's a bullet hole from the Uprising, still there to this day.
And they haven't covered over it. They want to remember it.
Yeah, they want to remember it. And so that's basically the Uprising and how it was. And I really enjoyed it. It was real history for me.
Well, that's a special kind of walk through it. Because even how I grew up knowing about it, it was very much they took over a post office, full stop. You know what I mean? And then we got we got independence. But for you to get a little backdoor look into the details of it, that must have been amazing. That must have been like fabulous.
Oh, it was incredible. I mean, I really felt I was walking in history on that pilgrimage as we were all going through the back streets. And I learned a lot. It's a bit different to being at the GPO where they roll out the carpet and they do everything else and they're celebrating this and that. I wouldn't feel attached to it nearly as much as I was to this.
No, because you're really walking through the streets, and a big celebration is different than actually walking and where these soldiers had to fight.
Now, just a few basic details of what happened, which you'd probably be interested in too, Jack, was the building, the Mendacity Institution, which they took. They were surrounded in the end by 400 English, and there was 27 of them. Now, they were just meant to take the place over for 2 hours to keep the English at bay, stop them walking up the street to get into the GPO. Same. Now, they actually held it for 2 days, and in that 2 days, they had another 13 other Irishmen came from the back door. That's brought up to 26. And shortly after that, there was a whole bunch of more English came. They had 400 people there. And this little band of brothers was actually popping off the British left, right and centre. And the British were getting really upset about this. So finally, in the end, the British took them over. But I forgot to mention why the building was easier to take for them is because, I remember further back I said that it was closer to the actual street, just near the gates. The British were throwing grenades through those windows. Yeah. So the Irish were getting these grenades, they were like catching them sometimes, or picking them up and throwing them back out again. But sometimes there was mishaps and one of them got caught. I think they lost 1 or 2 people. It was amazing. A lot of them were injured, but there was just 1 or 2 killed, not many at all. So they did really well. So they caught them with grenades and threw them back. But the English finally took them over in the end. They came in and they said, who's the leader of all you people? Sean Houston stepped forward. And the British were really annoyed with this. What? There's just that many of you guys and you've killed so many of us. And they started beating them and did all sorts of horrible things to them. So they marched them off to their jail or whatever. They marched them off to put them in jail. And on the way, the Irish people of the town were really annoyed with the rebels because a lot of them didn't actually support them. They were just happy being in mediocrity. And so they were spitting on them and giving them a hard time and doing all sorts of things. And so they finally, and that's the welcome they got. For trying to do that, what they were doing, trying to give them freedom. So they were taken and put into jail. And they were all put up before the courts, and Sean Houston was court-martialed in the end, and he was actually to be executed. So a day, 2 or 3 days later, or whatever, after his court-martial, he was executed.
At age 25.
At age 25, he was executed, along with about 6 or 7 others of the other leaders. Some of them were in the post office and were holding it together, and they were much older men. And they were all executed around about the same time too. I think Connolly was one of the one who was actually he was executed as well. He was shot in the leg and he couldn't stand up. So he was lying down when they captured him. They set him up in a chair and executed him sitting him up in a chair.
Well, that's nice of them.
Yeah, it's quite. Yeah, quite. Instead of doing it when he was lying down, it's quite nice of them. Yeah, so that's how it all worked out. And it's actually bit of politics in that too. The British shouldn't have actually executed those men because it made them martyrs. And when the Irish population heard about these men being executed in that manner, they were up in arms about it. So that actually got a lot more of the Irish against the British in the end. And in actual fact, it helped them gain independence. So the British actually shot themselves in the foot to a certain extent by doing that.
Yeah.
So that's just a little more information. Now, just a few basic details of what happened, which you'd probably be interested in too, Jack, was the building, the Mendacity Institution, which they took. They were surrounded in the end by 400 English, and there was 27 of them. Now, they They were just meant to take the place over for 2 hours to keep the English at bay, stop them walking up the street to get into the GPO. Same. Now, they actually held it for 2 days. And in that 2 days, they had another 13 other Irishmen came from the back door. That's brought up to 26. And shortly after that, there was a whole bunch of more English came. They had 400 people there. And this little band of brothers was actually popping off the British left, right and centre. And the British were getting really upset about this. So finally, in the end, the British took them over. But I forgot to mention, why the building was easier to take for them is because, I remember further back I said that it was closer to the actual street, just near the gates. The British were throwing grenades through those windows.
Yeah.
So the Irish were getting these grenades, they were like catching them sometimes, or picking them up and throwing them back out again. But sometimes there was mishaps and one of them got caught. I think they lost 1 or 2 people. It was amazing. A lot of them were injured, but there was just 1 or 2 killed, not many at all. So they did really well. So they caught them with grenades and threw them back. But the English finally took them over in the end. They came in and they said, who's the leader of all you people? Sean Houston stepped forward. And the British were really annoyed with this. What? There's just that many of you guys and you've killed so many of us. And they started beating them and did all sorts of horrible things to them. So they marched them off to their jail or whatever. They marched them off to put them in jail. And on the way, the Irish people of the town were really annoyed with the rebels because a lot of them didn't actually support them. They were just happy being in mediocrity. And so they were spitting on them and giving them a hard time and doing all sorts of things. And so they finally, and that's the welcome they got.
Yeah.
Trying to do that, what they were doing, trying to give them freedom. So they were taken and put into jail. And they were all put up before the courts. And Sean Houston was court-martialed in the end. And he was actually to be executed. So a day, 2 or 3 days later or whatever, after his court-martial, he was executed.
At age 25.
At age 25, he was executed, along with about 6 or 7 others of the other leaders. Some of them were in the post office and were holding it together, and they were much older men, and they were all executed around about the same time too. I think Connolly was one of the ones who was actually he was executed as well. He was shot in the leg and he couldn't stand up, so he was lying down when they captured him. They set him up in a chair and executed him sitting him up in a chair.
Well, that's nice of them.
Yeah, it's quite. Yeah, quite. Instead of doing it when he was lying down, it's quite nice of them. Yeah, so that's how it all worked out. And it's actually a bit of politics in that too. The British shouldn't have actually executed those men because it made them martyrs. And when the Irish population heard about these men being executed in that manner, they were up in arms about it. So that actually got a lot more of the Irish against the British in the end. And in actual fact, it helped them gain independence. So the British actually shot themselves in the foot to a certain extent by doing that.
Yeah.
So that's just a little more information. Yeah. So thanks, Jack, for coming along with me on this trip. And I'm glad you enjoyed it and you learnt a lot as well as me. Yeah. That's it, folks. If you've got any questions or comments, feel free to plug them in down below. Thank you.
See you guys.
See ya.